Welcome to Cactus Crossfire, your go-to for hot takes and prickly debates.
Welcome in. We're here for another exciting episode of Cactus Crossfire. I'm one of your hosts, Sisto and Eddie. Along with me, as always, is Eddie. Eddie Abelser, where are you at?
What's going on? One of my co-hosts, Sisto and Eddie. I am in the great state of Utah. Thankful to be in Utah, where it is 80 degrees, sunshine outside. And as always, here we are in 8688 studio, the home of Gabe Baca. Gabe Baca, I saw him. He built a snowman out of rain one year. That guy is incredible.
A snowman out of rain. I only believe that somehow that happens in Utah.
Man, I mean, it's not just a Disney movie that they do those types of things. So
I'm gonna build a snowman.
Although they love their Disney here in Utah.
They do.
Woo!
They do love Disney in Utah. Well, Eddie, it seems like we're on the verge of an exciting political theater in the world right now. I mean, it's been a while since we've actually had one of these episodes where we're actually able to talk about what's happening on in the real world. And what we've kind of been kicking around here at Cactus Crossfire is, what happens when political brands start to fade and start to crumble, and it seems to be fitting into the narrative of a lot of the stuff that's playing out right now. What happens when those brands actually, start to fall apart and when reality starts to kick in, brother?
I mean, up is down, left is right, conservative is Democrat, crazy liberal is Republican. Like, who knows? This is topsy-turvy, man. Tucker Carlson is the most liberal member of the Democratic Party. That's not a Democrat.
Well, I mean,
mark my words. It is bizarro world.
Well, I mean, we've got a lot going on. The big gaping hole that's now happened in the Trump foreign policy with Joe Kent resigning, and the oil and gas prices are starting to rise and are starting to hit voters at home, and we'll see what happens. We're still talking to Texas had its primaries a couple weeks ago. We're still talking about the Texas primary and what the effects of that are going to be in the upcoming elections.
Illinois had their primaries,
and all the other primaries. What does that mean for Democrats? What does that mean for Republicans? And now we're facing a scandal in the legacy of a civil rights and labor leader in our country. With Cesar Chavez. And at the same time, you're home away from home, Nevada, a liability fight getting on its heels there in Nevada that we're going to be talking about. So, this is all interesting stuff that's coming around. So let's dig into it.
Let's go. Well, as those gas prices are increasing, Sisto, I'm in the market for an electric vehicle. How about you?
I'm holding out, bro. I'm holding out.
You are a company man, because as a New Mexican, you and I both know you cannot drive an electric vehicle.
Well,
your state is oil and gas.
Yeah, I do enjoy the fact that my vehicle is a little bit of an eco-friendly vehicle. It does stop. It does turn off when I'm at a stop sign. So that's as far as I'm willing to go, brother. That's as far as I'm willing to go. Let's talk about it, Eddie. We've had an exciting situation starting out with our good friend, your buddy, Joe Kent.
What do they say? Bombs over Tehran.
Bomb, Iran. Isn't that what your former senator from Arizona used to say?
Bomb, Iran.
Yeah. Isn't that what he used to say? Joe Kent decides to resign.
Oh, yeah.
Over the entire
escalation
of the situation in Iran. So, what's going on with that? What are you thinking around that, Eddie? I want to hear your thoughts.
Okay, so here you have a guy in his nomination process, director of security, and I forget his official title, Sisto, but I mean, he goes through the Senate hearings. Every Democrat comes out in full rabid aggression. This guy is a racist. Look at his tattoos. He associates with the white supremacists, right? Like, birds of a feather flock together. This dude is a bad dude, right? Well, Trump nominates him, and that's the other thing, right? Associative politics. It's Trump, so of course you can't like anything Trump. But Democrats all out, full bore against this guy, hate this guy, racist, white supremacist, all the things that we as Democrats fight against, we hate. So now he writes this letter, says, out of my good conscience, I can't support a war where we're taking rid of a dictator that's murdering thousands of its people and oppressing people for the last 4 decades, right? So he writes his little letter, and I mean, it was almost as if Democrats had forgotten how much they hated this guy. They're posting this letter because it's an anti-Trump letter. They're posting it all over. And what I think it's even more than anti-Trump, it's an anti-Israel or an anti-Semitic letter. Let's be honest. This guy, he's a white supremacist. Who do white supremacists hate? Jews. That's who they hate. And so what's this guy doing? He's walking his own racist line, and all these Democrats are falling for it, right? It reminds me of that South Park episode where the MAGA extreme racist Republicans and the progressive Democrats start fighting, but they're saying the same thing, right? In South Park, they're saying the same racist tropes back and forth towards each other and saying why they hate each other, but they believe in the same thing. This is what has happened. Our parties are topsy-turvy. And I think this is the perfect example, Sisto, of what is wrong within the Democratic Party. And I don't think Republicans are immune from this. I mean, they have these types of people in their party. Thank goodness he's out, but it's not like he was kicked out, right? The dude resigned because of his own extremist views that don't correlate with, I think, the mainstream that the rest of the country is going towards.
Well, but is the mainstream the Trump message? Are you saying that the Trump message is founded in some type of anti-Semitic rhetoric, and that's why they're moving forward on this Iran deal? I mean, is that the whole idea behind why Joe Kent resigned? Or is it the fact that Joe Kent actually looked at the data and saw that there was no real reason for us to intervene in Iran for the reasons that the president has put forward?
Data is the most manipulative piece of variables in making decisions, right? Like if we're talking about quantitative issues of what's happening in Iran and their access to nuclear weapons, I think we should all be afraid. Now, we can all look back under George W. and the good old George W. and going into war in Iraq and weapons of mass destruction, and maybe those were way further off than Colin Powell had initially told the UN at that point. Regardless, Sisto, you're talking about one of the most repressive countries, a theocracy that is predicated upon terror, that funds terror, that the new Ayatollah came out, Sisto, and said, we need to make America on its knees. I mean, he is threatening this country with terror.
Well,
and look at what they did as Stryker. Look at what they're doing in Qatar in the Middle East.
Eddie,
it's bizarre that anyone would defend Iran in this moment of time.
Eddie, is this anything different than we've heard from an Ayatollah? Really? I mean, this is the same old rhetoric. At least they're staying on brand, and they're staying loyal to their brand. And that's the difference with Joe Kent. Joe Kent was a dyed-in-the-wool Trump advocate and acolyte for all of these years. And what does he end up doing? All of a sudden, he looks at things through a different lens. And he says, well, I don't think that this is what I signed up for. Which we've seen with my ex-girlfriend, MTG. Same thing. A lot of these folks were starting to see a lot of the cracks in the Trump narrative and the Trump trope. And at the end of the day, are we seeing the cracks in that messaging? Because at the same time, we're creeping up. We're creeping up on June. It's right around the corner. And I thought oil and gas prices were going to be a little bit lower, according to the president and his friends. And now here we are in a war in an oil-rich country, and we're saying to ourselves, we're not too sure those oil and gas prices are going to go down.
He better work his butt off to make that happen, Cesar, or else his party and his future legacy is in big trouble.
Well,
because you're absolutely right.
And that's where we're headed with this. I mean, we're headed towards the election in November. We're getting closer and closer to this. The closer we get to summer, Eddie Ablisser and the Ablisser clan are not able to jump up in the family SUV and drive across country and head out to Disneyland. this summer and enjoy the Magic Kingdom for what it is. Oh, baby. There's going to be some crying folks back in Utah.
Listen, everyone's already cried in Utah. You brought up the Magic Kingdom. I was recently at the Magic Kingdom, and there's nothing magical about the Magic Kingdom. I ran into the largest group of employees, all millennials, that were the grumpiest. It's like they all were one Disney character, right? Grumpy from Snow White and Seven Dwarfs. Like, it was miserable. They were the most miserable group of employees. No one made anyone feel happy, right? So second of all, there's no kids going to Disneyland. I don't know the last time you went to Disneyland, but it's like a 25-to-1 adult to child ratio. It's incredible. And they're all dressed up in characters. To me, it's one of the most dense places of individuals with possibly low-grade mental illness because they are all fantasizing about some of the reality at Disneyland. Third, everything is shut down. All right, so there's my vent on Disneyland. You can't even ride rides on Disneyland. But Sisto, I wouldn't even be driving my SUV with gas. We're going to get an EV, bro. That's my next car.
Whether it's Disneyland or if it's the Pacific Coast, Family Adventure is not getting on the road this summer. And even if it is the EV, okay, you know as well as I know that there's not that many charging stations for you between Utah and California. So, and then you're obviously going to have to stop back at home in your old stomping grounds of Reno because Lord knows they have power to keep that place lit up as much as they do. So, I mean, that's where we're headed with all this. There's going to have to be some reckoning between the Trump message and what the Trump reality is. These are more cracks that we're going to start seeing from these folks as we go along. Joe Kent is just the tip of the iceberg. Actually, I don't even think he's the tip now. I think we're halfway to the bottom of the iceberg that's going to be coming in for the Republicans come November. So
let me ask a question. What countries have come out in opposition to what America is doing in Iran right now?
That have come out in opposition?
Right? Lebanon, Hezbollah right now. No one. Not Qatar, not Saudis, not Jordan, not Syria, not Turkey. Saudis are supporting the U.S. through airstrikes right now. Every one of those groups are supporting in the Middle East because they know what the Ayatollah has done in that region and the pain it's caused. The only country that is opposing what we're doing and supporting Iran, it's the Democratic Republic of the Democratic Socialists in the United States of America.
No,
it's
Eddie.
Our own Democratic Party
Eddie,
that's supporting
Eddie,
Iran. It's bizarre to me. What the hell is wrong with them? Sisto?
Now, come on. That's not what they're doing. That's
Ruben's opposing it. What is he doing?
Ruben's not opposing the dictatorship. He's opposing how we're approaching the military plan. Okay? Let's get clear on where their opposition really is. They're saying we cannot afford to get into another war, is what they're saying. They're not saying they oppose getting rid of the Ayatollah. They're not saying that they oppose that it was one of these regimes. What they're saying is we need to understand why we're going there. And that's the same message that Joe Kent had. Joe Kent couldn't understand why we went there. And so at the end of the day, the biggest problem yet again, and I'll bring it back home, is that you're right. There haven't been a lot of countries that have said that they're opposed to what we're doing. There's also not a lot of countries who are saying they're in support of what we're doing either. You know, we're not seeing the same ally coalition, and you had Colin Powell standing up in front of the UN saying, hey, this is what we're doing. We need support. We need people. We need to build a coalition. Well, I haven't seen our good friend Marco show up to the UN in a while and say what's going on out there. It's going to lead into these elections. And the Texas primaries, the Texas general election, where Democrats are going to be able to connect with voters in this upcoming election.
What do you think about what happened 2 nights ago in Illinois? Right, there were 5 main primaries, open seats across the board in Illinois. And, you know, the infiltrators of the Democratic Party, as I call them, the squad, right? The ones that are occupying, you know, reasonable and fair and rational thinkers. They're just causing chaos left and right. So they had 5 candidates. Every single one of them failed, like massive failure, right? Ro Khanna and all of his extremist positions and hateful positions. He went out to Illinois thinking he's going to be the next president. He went out to Illinois. All 5 of these candidates that he gave money, he supported, he campaigned, stumped with, they all failed. All of them, not a single one. What do you think? You think we're turning the corner and we're realizing these candidates are who they really are?
What you've got to start understanding about these elections and what's happening in states like Illinois is you're starting to see a resurgence of people. Well, it's not a resurgence. I mean, they've always done it. It's just that now they haven't found the ideologues who are that far to the left as Rokana and the squad type of group. People are now more than ever voting with their pocketbook, man. We've been saying it for years. I mean, you and I have worked on numerous campaigns over the last 4 years. And what do we keep telling our clients all the time? If you're not talking about the economy, I don't want to hear a
damn thing.
I don't want to hear a damn thing. You can talk about whatever the heck you want to talk about, but if you can't take it back to the economy, I don't want to hear it. That's right. If you can't tie it into the economy, I don't want to hear it. And we've helped a lot of people figure out that message and how to get there. And that's why you're starting to see these Texas primaries starting to shape up in a very different way. Even with the gerrymandering that happened in Texas. I mean, you know who I'm loving right now in Texas, who I'm really much, I'm falling in love with him every single day on social media.
Who's your new girlfriend?
No, new boyfriend. I got a new guy who is blowing the doors off. Bobby Pulido. Have you seen Bobby? Bobby Pulido is a very famous Spanish artist, musician. And just a couple of days ago, his opponent said, this election is not about who you're going to have play at your quinceañera. And he took that message and he said, you know what? This is exactly what that election is about. Who are you going to invite into your circle to talk about real problems that are facing our community? And to even up the ante on his Republican opponent, he's made baseball caps that say, make quinceañeras great again.
I love it.
Now, and there's so much talk about quinceañeras, Eddie, that my partner Haley is now asking me, because she never had a quinceañera, to have a quinceañera.
Oh, nice.
And
let's get Bobby out for that.
And Bobby Pulido, he said, you know what? I had a lot of people reaching out to me from all these different places, from Arizona, New Mexico, but I'm only doing the quinceañeras in the district. So he's been showing up to quinceañeras that he's getting invited to in the district and doing a whole thing about it. Even been invited to over 1,000 quinceañeras since the comment was made. And this is where the Democrats are capitalizing right now, Eddie. This is where the Democrats have turned the tide. They have found their way to connecting with voters on everyday issues, even something as simple as a quinceañera. And that's where the candidates that were running that Rokana was supporting, they weren't grounded in reality. They were not talking about bread and butter issues, and their opponents, all of them very much blue-collar folks, very much middle-of-the-ground types of individuals. That dirty little word that we've been accused of in the Democratic Party too many times, moderates, it's getting to be cool again because the public wants somebody who's going to start working on problems regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, bringing people together and finding solutions. So in that vein, my good friend, Eddie Ablaser, you may have a shot at coming back into the Arizona legislature and be welcomed with open arms, saying, Eddie, we should have been listening to you all those years ago.
Well, I mean, listen, I have no, first of all, not the Arizona legislature. Let's be clear. Like there are some causes that are worth fighting for, and the state of Arizona and all my good friends that serve there, that cause is lost. I'm sorry. Because, and we can get into that later, it is no longer the days of Janet Napolitano, my favorite governor, and even looking back before her, right? Jane D. Hole and just these moderate voices. Arizona, and we'll save that for later. It is pretty extreme, but I love it. I think you hit the nail on the head, Sisto. These primaries are showing us that the common voter wants common sense. The common voter believes that their pocketbook matters more than all these fringe issues that the party has sunk itself into for many, many years. And I think that what we're seeing right now is if there is a blue wave, if there truly is a blue wave, it's the states where they elect that more tempered, that more common sense, that level-headed voice that comes and wants to talk in a more rational way, that doesn't want to throw bombs, that doesn't want to blow things up, right, Representative Omar? Instead, they want to be reasonable.
The media coverage that is happening is coming from Democrats in the West. The messaging and the tactics are coming from Democrats in the West. Bobby Pulido, James Talarico, our own Speaker Martinez. You know, those types of candidates are starting Ruben Gallego are starting to slowly, flex their muscle. Even my own U.S. Senator, Ray Lujan. You know, Ben Ray is out there, he's over there. This week he was talking about, the SAVE Act and what was going on there. And they're just bringing it home.
Now, in front of it, trying to change some better business permitting things. I mean, they're all doing great things.
Yeah, and they're all coming back to the center. I want to say that I think that part of it, too, has to deal with the fact that a lot of the organizations and groups that have been surrounding these folks, a lot of these 501c4 organizations that are out there, they have not been able to raise the money that they used to because of the dismal performance that they had in the last presidential election with Kamala Harris. They were telling their donors that, we were going to turn out all these new voters, factionalized voters in support of Harris, and they weren't able to get it done. And I think that bill of sale came due for those folks. And now the voters are starting to say, wait a minute, you guys lied to us just as much as the other side did. So we're looking for somebody who can actually talk to us in terms that we understand, bring it home to our home communities, and stand up for the issues that we really care about. And, through all of that leads us into, when messaging, grows into a movement and it changes lives and affects lives. But right now we're facing fallout from recent revelations. We're filming this now, so it's all fairly new in regards to labor leader Cesar Chavez and what has been, going on with him. Do we apply, some morality and standards to everybody across the board, regardless of the other things that they've done?
Wow,
Eddie.
I mean, so there's a couple things here, right? Like, I'm not going to lie. I mean, when I ran for office, right, in a Democratic circle, Cesar Chavez was a icon, right? I mean, this is, in Catholic tradition, iconography is a very important thing. These are symbols of who we want to be, right? We create sainthood over individuals. And we believe, and I think that's all of our folly, is that mankind is not without its own error and its own selfishness and its own depravity. And I think we can get into a deeper conversation there. I mean, many of the fights I get into with many of my friends is that I believe human nature is inherently selfish. And as a person of faith, selfishness is quasi-evil, right? I disagree with Ayn Rand's philosophy that selfishness leads to a betterment in society because you're pursuing your own inherent Freudian id, right? That more than anything else, you want that superego that is something that binds us all and connects the greater good. And so we look at people, we put them up on pedestals, we believe that they are without flaw, that they are these superhuman individuals, many people who subscribe to Christian faith, right, as a Jesus figure, when the reality is that figure only rests in one person. Catholic Church struggled for many years with the disgusting abuse of children amongst priests, and they've had to wrestle through that. Every tradition has struggled with abuses. One of my favorite political memories, Sisto, is that Dolores Huerta, I've had the chance to interact with her twice. The first time she came to Arizona State University, and this is when some skinny, no-name politician out of Chicago was running for president named Barack Obama, and he came to the campus and held a rally. And it was literally me opening with my seatmate David. I'm going to give David some shout outs, but David, myself, opening the rally for Dolores, who then came on stage and opened for then State Senator Barack Obama, or I guess he was U.S. Senator. So this all happened. I got a chance to visit with Dolores, sweetest lady in the world, absolutely amazing. I soaked up every inch of time that I could with her. What a phenomenal inspiration. What an inspiring leader. And someone that I had these assumptive notions of symbolic value, put her up on a pedestal. Then many years later, she came out to Nevada. We flew her out to Nevada for some policy work we're doing in the legislature. Had this chance to walk Dolores around. Everyone, Republicans, Democrats alike, just loved taking pictures with her, loved talking with her, sitting with her. She was extremely kind. She's as feisty as hell. I mean, this lady was not holding back. But looking at this narrative, Sisto, it causes me to stop, reflect, and say, they're simply humans. They're making mistakes, and we have to stop putting them up on these unrealistic pedestals of who they are. Now, oftentimes, movements, as the UFCW did, right, as the labor movements did, create a narrative that gets beyond the person. And the symbolism of the person is what leads it. And so it makes me sad looking at that these things have been known for many, many years and were hidden from public discourse because they did not want the movement to get jeopardized. Because you remove the leader, the following goes away, right, is the adage. Sisto, I'm interested in your thoughts. It is sad. It's not shocking. And frankly, it's interesting to me to see every Democratic politician run to the camera and absolutely scrub Cesar Chavez out of everything that they've done in their history and their city's works. And I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. Like, I mean, what do you think?
Well, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, Eddie. I mean, going back to how you started your conversation about iconography, and me being a good New Mexico Catholic, I understand iconography very intimately. But the one thing that you have to understand about iconography and a lot about saints is that saints are never perfect. Saints actually come with a lot of human error, and most saints that are elevated to sainthood come with some type of a fallacy to them. There's something that they're at fault for something, but they're not perfect. And I think that when and you're absolutely right. I'm looking at this through the lens of, I think I've talked about this before on the show, but I was the National Catholic Youth Representative for the Archdiocese of Santa Fe. I represented the entire Southwest in the Catholic Church, and this was in the early 90s when I was still in high school. And we were rocked by the same type of scandal. Our own Archbishop Sanchez was found to be having an affair with a younger woman, much like the same with Cesar Chavez. A lot of us in New Mexico were distraught. We were torn up about it. We didn't know how to react to it. We had such reverence for Archbishop Sanchez because he was the first native New Mexican to become Archbishop in New Mexico. Born and raised New Mexican kid. And he looked like us, and he talked like us, and he had a similar background as us. Not that much indifferent than Cesar Chavez. Now, the Cesar Chavez, it's very funny because it does hit closer to home for us in New Mexico because of Dolores. Dolores was born and raised right here in New Mexico. And, there's a lot of us here that we're very lucky to see Dolores on a very frequent stage and have conversations with her and have that interactions with her about what she brought to the movimiento, especially as a woman. And as a woman who was recognized after Cesar's passing as the living torch for the movement. And to know that she's carried with her the pain of the attack that was brought upon her by Cesar, the fact that she recognizes that there was a fear on her behalf to speak out against Cesar for what he had done because of her fear of it affecting the movement and it putting for tarnishing the movement. But I think what needs to start happening is that their movements aren't religion. It's not law. They're just movements. They're bringing to light some type of injustice that's happening within a certain community. And even within those communities themselves, there is injustice that happens there, like what has happened to Dolores Huerta. And the pain that it has brought to so many people in our state, to so many people personally, to know that you have a hero that was capable of doing these horrible, evil, malicious things doesn't clear the individual, but it doesn't also tarnish the work of the movement. And right now, I think they're getting it right in California. There's a lot of folks in California that are changing, they're celebrating. It's in state statute that there is a Cesar Chavez Day. Now they're changing it to the Farm Workers Day in those dates. I think that they're still missing the point because they're still hosting it on his birthday, which I think they need to change the date for that as well. I would probably, being the only guy I think that's on a podcast talking about politics right now that actually grew up on a farm, it should be at the start of the farming season. The first day of the farming season is when that day should be celebrated. And when we should be thinking about those people who are leaving their homes and going out into the fields and picking the produce to put on our tables. But at the same time, a lot of folks at the other end of that spectrum is a lot of folks have been quick to say, even right here in Albuquerque, we have two roads that meet, Avenida Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta. They meet in the middle. And now they're talking about scrubbing the Cesar Chavez side and just letting it all be Dolores Huerta, which I think is appropriate. I think it's appropriate that her road is going to run over him in that type of a metaphorical sense of the word. But at the end of the day, we have to be able to speak truth. And I was having this conversation with a couple folks during all this happening is knowing that there have been times and there have been instances where we're not perfect. We don't always make the right decisions. But does it make us bad people? I don't know. Depends on how the narrative is played out within the media and how people respond to it. And to think that you have that these instances, and it's not one instance. It's not one instance. This is multiple instances where he did this. And I was talking with a friend of mine that was a part of the labor movement, had kind of been through the same thing in their lives, and what could understand where Dolores was coming from, because it seems like in more labor movements than not, the male is elevated while the woman is not. Dolores was very clear throughout her career that Si Se Puede was hers. She came up with that.
Yep.
Cesar took that from her. That's not the only thing Cesar took from her. That's not the only thing that we've seen men in the labor movement take from their victims. And I think that this needs to be a conversation that not just happens within the UFW, but within labor as a whole. And that the organized labor movement needs to recognize the fact that this is happening in labor unions right now. If you go and you look at the total number of labor organizations that are dealing with sexual harassment and sexual assault issues, it will blow your mind. And where's the accountability? When does the accountability happen? Right here in New Mexico. We've even had labor leaders in New Mexico that were accused of this. Went through a whole entire process. And now you have candidates who spoke truth to that power that are being told that they're difficult. They're hard to manage. And this is a bigger issue. This is a bigger issue than just Cesar Chavez. And it hurts my community. It hurts me as a Latino male, because my fear is, what's the next thing that they're going to use to throw against us? What's the next thing that they're going to say about Latino male leaders? Because this squarely falls into the narrative that can be played out on the right, that they've played out with Latinos over the last couple of years. And it's a very hard thing as a Latino man to have to defend. I think at this point in my life, I'm thankful that I don't have children, and I don't have I have my niece, who I'm very protective of, and I will fight for till the end of days. But I will always make sure that she understands that she never has to be silent about anybody who has ever disrespected her space. And I think that that's something that needs to be talked about more, that needs to be empowering of women. And that's where we need to start focusing a lot of these conversations, and not just because it's Cesar Chavez, because this is not just him. This is a lot of men in power. And we have to quickly address this and deal with it. That they're going to be infallible. No leader has not been infallible. I don't know if you've watched the movie LBJ that's out with Woody Harrelson. And he's in the car and he's headed to an event, and he gets a call from J. Edgar Hoover, and he says, look, we've got Martin Luther King on the phone in a call with a woman that he's having an affair with, right? And LBJ's response to him, and put this in context, this is 1960s. If we started going after every Baptist preacher who was having an affair, there would be very few Baptist preachers left. LBJ saying this in 1960 something. You know, our heroes are not infallible. Our saints are not infallible. And some of them we're more willing to forgive and elevate them to sainthood. But there's just some sins that we can never forgive. And this is definitely one of those. One of the things that tore me apart in reading this story and reading the New York Times article was the young woman who was 13 when he started molesting her, and the letter she wrote him about how much she loved him and how she missed him and this whole grooming aspect of it. And the saddest part about that to me, Eddie, that letter was in the Cesar Chavez archives where they were celebrating this man. It's not that it just showed up. It was there. And it was plain. It was there for us all to see. But when we read that letter the first time, we read it through the lens of, oh, here's this young woman who's idolizing Cesar Chavez. And we celebrated it. God forbid that poor woman, knowing that that's in an archive. And what even blows my mind even more, Eddie, about that, is he kept the letter. I mean, that's a different level of sick type of individual. I can't forgive that. I can't forgive that. I can't stand by it. I can't resolve it. And this is all new and fresh, and I'm probably going to have to go to church and pray about it. That's how bad this is. But there comes a time where we have to start addressing these problems in a real way. And, you know, the truth is always the best policy. And that's why this story matters, because it doesn't, what ends up happening with this story is it doesn't erase what's happened in the labor movement. It doesn't erase what was the good things that were done in the civil rights movement. But what it does is it diminishes a man. It diminishes a man who deserves to be diminished for the horrible acts that he committed. But it doesn't cancel the work that was done, not just by him, but people like Dolores Huerta and other people around them that stood up. It doesn't diminish the Corky Gonzalez's of the world. It doesn't diminish the Reyes Tejerinas of the world. It doesn't. We have other heroes, hermanos y hermanas, del movimiento. There are others who led with integrity and led with pride, and we can hold them up too. Like I said, for us in New Mexico, it's really hard. It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
This is one of our state's heroes.
This is what you're getting to, and I appreciate your thoughtful exercise in deconstructing what has happened here. And when we make a movement about a person, inevitably that movement will fail because the person will fail, because the person is infallible, right? Or is fallible. It is the linear path that has always happened, right? When we look at the movements of Gandhi, the criticisms around Gandhi, we know the movements around Dr. Martin Luther King, the criticisms around him, criticisms around Nelson Mandela. It's working to recognize that truly no one is as Christ-like as Christ, right? That is our only model in society towards perfection. And looking at other humans and realizing that they hurt other people, they are predatory, they are self-interested, they are probably a lot of significant mental illness. The goal through all this is not being okay that behind the scenes someone is in a position of power but still abusing it and hurting other people, calling those people out. Democratic Party went through a huge mass exodus of leaders during the #MeToo movement. And some would say that perhaps it took a couple steps too far, but the steps it initially took were very important, right? Especially in Hollywood, where there was just disgusting abuse that happened across the panacea of political activism. And now here we are looking backward, reflecting on a leader who betrayed everyone's trust in private.
Well, I mean,
shouldn't take away from his actions and what he pushed.
Yeah,
but it's good for us to recognize moving forward. Go ahead.
And the thing that I have to commend Democrats on this, as opposed to my friends on the right, is when our leaders fail, we rectify course very quickly and very swiftly. It's not happening on the other side. There are still problems that are, and that was, and yes, feeding back into our top of the segment, you know, my gal, MTG, was very quick to call out a lot of these issues, even within her own party. I think there was even a guy who was from Florida that was going to be attorney general, and they couldn't hold him up because of the scandal, nor did they choose to hold him up to the light because of the scandal that he had with a young underage staffer. Now, you're right. We can't hold we can't live with these people on our pedestals, and when they're knocked down and they fall and they break, there's no, sometimes you just don't pick up the pieces. You just sweep them and you throw them in the trash. And that's exactly where this is headed with Cesar Chavez and everything that he stood for. He's going to get swept into the trash where he belongs.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, people are going to take accountability. They're going to hold people accountable for what they did. You know, we've got some interesting things happening in Nevada for us.
It's actually all over. It's in multiple states. Let's do a hard pivot.
Yeah.
I don't know how we pivot away from that last segment,
Yeah.
Sisto, but a really, quick break, and now moving into something that's happening right now in the U.S. Senate, I guess it's in the House. There's a national debate, and we're going to pull our Dems and our Rs into this and figure out which group is on the right side or wrong. But you have technology that has surpassed archaic tradition in business and industry. One of those, obviously, is the taxi cab industry. I know there's still taxi cabs out there, and they serve a certain purpose, but ride sharing has become the ubiquitous engagement for all passengers looking to purchase a ride from one place to another. The Graves Amendment historically has protected rental cars and other rental associations, and said that if you yourself as the driver, right? I rented a car. I'm actually in a rental car this week, and Enterprise is the company I went through. And if I happen to crash, I have a liability. I sign that off. I absorb it, and I am the one that's liable, not Enterprise, right? Moving companies have the same type of situation. But there's a debate going on, and I'm interested in your thoughts around what do we do with rideshare? Because, again, the Ubers, the Lyfts, the variety of other options, Toro, you name it, that's out there. Are they the ones that are responsible? Should you and I make a bad decision and one crash the vehicle or assault a rider? Is it our fault? Are we the ones liable in placing that situation as drivers, or is it the company? What the Graves Amendment would do is basically say that there's a certain level of liability the company holds in making sure that the drivers that they hire or have working underneath them pass certain certain levels of standards, but that there is this vicarious liability that is truly a personal liability piece that does not pass along to the company. Obviously, the companies are very interested in this, but on the flip side, who is fighting for this? And that's the trial lawyers, another Democratic beating drum that constantly pops its head up across every state in the Southwest and frankly the country. Trial lawyers give a lot of money. I got a lot of money from trial lawyers when I ran for office, Sisto, and they always came to me, and I disappointed them quite often because I was a big tort reform type of guy. I think they stopped giving me money near the middle of my political career. But trial lawyers want to be able to sue Uber and want to be able to sue Lyft. There's no thoughts into the cost of insurance if that happens, the cost of prices of these rides should that happen. We know that they'll all skyrocket, right? We've seen this before. Many of the pricing issues in medical and true costs in medicine is because our trial lawyers continue to sue the crap out of every sort of medical professional, and the liability insurance continues to go up. Professional insurance goes up, malpractice insurance goes up. And then what happens when you and I go see a doctor? We're paying higher prices because our trial lawyers have, out of the goodness of their heart, sued the crap out of everyone and increased our prices. So that's what we're stuck with. This Graves Amendment, I think it should pass. I think it should be adopted. To me, it's a no-brainer. I'm interested in your thoughts. What do you think about the Graves Amendment and vicarious liability, Sisto?
Well, we had this debate when Uber came into existence in New Mexico. And we actually put in some very interesting safeguards in regards to that for the application itself. But what we did do is we required for the driver to carry an additional rider of insurance. Where the problem has come in New Mexico has been when a driver is either threatened or attacked by a passenger, and they meet them with deadly harm or with some type of force that results in the other individual either being killed or maimed or something like that. In that sense, what the trial lawyers here in some cases, not a lot, but there's been a couple of instances where they're now suing. They're trying to sue the application because either the driver was either mentally unstable, shouldn't have been around people, whatever it may be, in that sense of understanding who it is that they're actually allowing to work on their platform. I think that there's a little bit of liability there on behalf of the individual letting you utilize their platform. I think that there needs to be some type of accountability for them in that sense, is that they shouldn't. I mean, Eddie, you and I both carry liability insurance. If I do something that's stupid or crazy while I'm working under the banner, we're protecting ourselves that, we're not going to lose our shirts personally and individually. But I think that, it's not a bad idea for some of these platforms to kind of think along the same lines in regards to who they're allowing into the platform to use the platform in those instances. Now, in regards to auto accidents, all those other things, like I said, I think that still falls on the driver. That's pretty clear in most instances. It's even clear for the cab companies, right? Their drivers actually have to carry an additional set of insurance that they have to pay out of pocket, and that's something that needs to be done. But I know, because I remember when this debate was happening, there was a few insurance agents that I was very close to, and full disclosure, everybody remembers he still worked at the Office of the Superintendent of Insurance at one time. But the insurance guys were excited about it because they were going to be able to write a whole new policy for people to pay for to become a driver. And that's what they were interested in. And that's, I think where they went. But I think that as we go forward with the Graves Amendment, let's see how these applications react and how they approach that, because, people are just wanting for businesses that are allowing people to connect in different ways to have some skin in the game because of the platform and how the platform monitors itself. This is just along those lines of technology is changing, things are changing, and the safeguards have to be there to protect people in the public. So those are my thoughts.
Appreciate that, and your background in insurance is incredible, and I think that's important. I do know that the Graves Amendment pushes those baseline mandates upon companies. Obviously, every corporation has their own professional liability. I mean, that goes without saying, and there's standards. But I think you're right. The added insurance upon drivers is a good requirement. I just think these conversations are really important, Sisto, because we forget around what true pricing is, right? The price of a ride, from Albuquerque to Santa Fe, if I wanted to take that hour and 15 minutes with a stranger, could be quadrupled if the professional liability requirements were to increase, significantly.
Yeah.
And so businesses have to calculate those decisions in how they price outward. And, listen, we are a consumer economy. We want to be able to get our cheapest products and services that can benefit the end goal. So for me, I'm excited about what the Graves Amendment's going to do, and let's keep moving forward.
It's time for our favorite segment. Tell me something spicy, something prickly, and something quickly.
Ready to do something spicy, something prickly, and something quickly. Eddie, what do you got for me?
All right, I guess I'll kick off. Here's my spicy take. My spicy take is in 2013, there was a man named Scott Fistler. Scott Fistler was a Republican in Arizona that ran for many, many offices and had lost and lost and lost. And what did he do? He changed his name to Cesar Chavez and ran as a Democrat in a congressional primary. Obviously, it blew up and people talked about it and became known, and he did not win. However, my spicy take is, hey, Scott, is your name still Cesar Chavez, and are you going to keep it, or are you going back to Scott Fistler? So I think sometimes the irony rests in stupidity of some of the people in our country, and this is a great story of, what did the Daily Show used to have? The Stupid Person Award of the Year. This certainly resorts to that. My other spicy take is we were having internet difficulties in New Mexico because of the less than effective company Xfinity. Get your proverbial crap together, Xfinity. What are you doing? Come on. All right, prickly. Let me go with my prickly take. I'm in the great state of Utah. What do we have? We have so many amazing things. Beautiful Wasatch Mountains. The summer and winter, skiing when there's snow on the mountains. It's just phenomenal. Also, we have a fad, a underground, or I guess above ground movement amongst these TikTokers that have gained tremendous notoriety, called the Real Lives of Mormon Wives. And I'm not sure if you've seen an episode of the Real Lives of Mormon Wives, Sisto. It's actually quite entertaining. It does not shed a good light on these women who are engaged in this. A little bit embarrassing, but all social media tends to be embarrassing, or I should say reality shows. To that end, Sisto, my prickly take is the Bachelorette was recently called off because they had this Frankie Taylor woman who was the Bachelorette, who is now embroiled in tremendous controversy around domestic violence. And my prickly take is, come on, like where is our society getting, Sisto? Why are we stuck in this stage where we are exposing all of our wounds, all of our scabs, all of our, disgusting sides of humanity, thinking that no one wants to watch that because they're proud of you or you're esteemed in any way. It's train wrecks. People are schadenfreude. They love to see other people's failures and explosions. So come on, Real Lives of Mormon Wives, turn off the camera, raise your children, be a good wife, be a good, sister, daughter, business owner. All of them are business owners. Run your business and contribute to society, and stop destroying our fake notion of what real life is on our airwaves. So that's my prickly take. I'm glad The Bachelorette got canceled, and it looks like the Real Lives of Mormon Wives is going to be shut down for quite some time too. All right.
Quickly.
I'm going to go quickly because I don't want to spend a lot of time on my arch nemesis, the mayor of Gotham City, Two-Face Mamdani, whose wife has come out and been exposed for the racist that she is, and frankly, the sick person that she is. She had liked multiple posts over and over again calling the rape and murder of women and children on October 7th by Palestinians a hoax. She had liked and supported posts that talked about October 7th as being some sort of liberating day for Palestinians, where they murdered the second largest mass murder of human beings in our generation since Holocaust. It's disgusting, the position she is in of power and her actions. And what's even more disgusting is that her husband defended her in public by saying she's a private person and she's entitled to those opinions. Shame on you, Mayor Two-Face Mamdani. Shame on you for Mamdani's wife. And frankly, I think what's happening out there is scary and terrifying, and hopefully we can get rid of those people from our party, because they're a horrible look for Democrats. All right, Sisto, I am done. I'm off my soapbox. I'm climbing down, and I'm ready for you to stand on yours.
So,
what is your spicy take for this week?
So my spicy take for this week is in California. There was a story about a lovely lady who was living with 3 very lovely girls, and she met a man who had 3 boys of his own. I'm talking about the Bradys. And the Bradys' old home in California has now been placed on the historical marker of California. So the Brady house is protected for years to come, but not too far behind it to happen here in the great state of New Mexico. Our own famous house may soon find its way onto that list as well. Walter White's home, recently bought and sold for a record number of dollars, which has probably increased the property value in that neighborhood exponentially. So I'm waiting to see Walter White's house get on the historical registry of homes. So that's my spicy take. Something prickly. Now, this is driving me nuts. But at the same time, and it's tied to kind of some of the stuff we're talking about. New Mexico, the New Mexico legislature this last year, under the leadership of Representative Andrea Romero, has created an Epstein Truth Commission that is now looking into Epstein's affiliations here in New Mexico. There are a number of, I would say, individuals who are out there on the internet making claims and accusations about how this whole thing should have gone down, that they may or not have information or they may or not have insight into people coming forward. Listen to what these people are saying and read what they're saying. Read it very detailed, in much detail, because you will find cracks in the stories that they're putting out there. And they are, and in my opinion, they're not helping bring to light the real problems that were happening around this situation. They're actually just trying to grab their own little slice of fame out of something that is completely and totally horrible and disgusting. So be mindful of those individuals. Something quickly. Eddie, I hate to tell you, I didn't put my money in. I am not participating this year in the March Madness brackets because my beloved UNM Lobos, are only playing in the NIT. So I will be placing my money.
They got brackets for that too.
Yeah, well, that's where my bracket's going to be. It's not going to be at the NCAA tournament this year. Quickly, I'm going to be supporting my Lobos all the way to the end to win the NIT. And that's it for us. Thank you once again to Gabe and Mandy for putting together another great show. Make sure you guys check us out. Apple Podcasts, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. See you next time. Thanks for tuning in.
Peace.
Cactus Crossfire, your go-to for hot takes and prickly debates.
The sun is high, the air is dry, voices clash under the sky, dusty roads.